Welcome to another edition of Maverick University. I'm your host, David Hallberg. Joining me today is Missionary Mike Drust, missionary in Albania, and I appreciate you joining the podcast with us.
Thank you for having me.
We're in the midst of our missions conference, and you've been here before for a missions conference as well, so we are familiar with you and your ministry, and I'm glad that we're able to talk with you. And I wanted to expose people to you and your ministry and be an encouragement to folks about just the possibilities that are out there for world missions. And it's not even a missions topic necessarily, but as you talk about your ministry, I just couldn't help but thinking, man, this is a guy who's a missionary to Albania, but you hardly are a missionary just in Albania. Right. And there's a big difference, I think. Can you describe, just in brief terms, the timeline of your ministry? You spent, you're almost a 24-year veteran in missions. Yes. And it's taken on many shapes and has definitely evolved over time. Yes. Can you describe a little bit of that for us?
I'll try to step you through some of that. We arrived on the field in 2001 as church planting missionaries. While there, we worked with the missionary for a short time just to kind of get our feet wet, began to learn the language and the culture. A short time thereafter, we moved on to begin a new church plant in a different part of the city, of the capital city of Tirana, Albania. And we worked there for a number of years, planted the church. We also helped in planting an additional church, and so those churches under national leadership now, just to sum it up. It was a great experience for us. The biggest challenge for us when we arrived there was really learning how to live in that kind of culture, learning how to live with infrastructure so bad. And the devil can use those things to really distract a missionary, to really occupy their time, and to keep them from doing the things that they need to do. But oftentimes we were in survival mode, no power 18 hours a day, for many days on end, no water. We had to truck the water in if we wanted it, Wow. And missionaries have said, and I would agree with this, that the only way they could describe those early years in Albania was total chaos. And so that was difficult, but we had to still do ministry, and so we worked very hard to try to get out there, work with the people, bring people into church, do some canvassing, some evangelism work, and invitations and things like that, and God blessed. And in terms of timeline, along about 2008, 2009. We came together with some partners and put together Institute for Missionary Training there in Albania, and my goal had been for a while is to try to train nationals. I realized that for me as an American working in a Muslim culture, and it was difficult as an American, but for Albanian nationals and for others that I felt like we could invest in and we could train, for them to serve as missionaries, not only in Albania, but to the regions beyond, so beyond Albania borders. And so we began training Albanians. We started with that, and were able to get a number of them up and running. We dispersed them to the country of Kosovo, also to Iraq, northern Iraq, and then to the country of which is known now as North Macedonia. Okay. And so, that was kind of the beginning stages, and we began to continue to train Albanian nationals. And then, sometime in the early 2000s, early 2010. So I would say somewhere around 2012. Okay. We were in contact with some national pastors in Central America that had a desire, had workers or workers in their church that had surrendered to be missionaries, specifically to reach Muslims. Can you imagine? Wow. Latin Americans, Yeah, and so Lord. It was really exciting. But I thought, as a missionary to Albania, I thought, do I really want to get off into that territory, onto another continent, into a different culture, and trying to train Latin Americans? But we prayed about it, and our partners, they ran with it, and so we were happy to be. I've been very happy to be involved in the training of Latin American nationals to serve as missionaries to reach Muslim people, and so that began our training with Latin Americans, and now we're currently working on doing the same thing in East Africa. So
really,
we're excited.
Wow.
And so we'll have this going on 3 different platforms, the 3 different continents, and so we're pretty excited about it, and we're looking forward to what God's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the title of the episode would be "Walking Through Doors When God Opens Them," I suppose.
That would be a very good title.
Yeah,
yes, sir.
And so there in Albania, I understand there's kind of a refugee issue, the war in Syria.
Yeah.
What other socioeconomic wars, things are affecting your ministry there in Albania and giving you opportunities that maybe others don't have that opportunity
Yes.
for?
Well, back in the Syrian refugee crisis began back in 2014, 2015. That's
Okay.
when we first began working with refugees, and back in that time, I launched an additional ministry under Regions Beyond called the Advancing the Gospel Project.
Okay.
Now, I was working with another missionary that was using micro SD cards, and so we also did that as well. And that went very well. We were able to reach a number of refugees coming up through that Eastern European corridor, coming out of Syria, coming through Turkey, coming up through that Eastern European corridor, and that which brought many of those refugees, hundreds of thousands of refugees, very close to Albania in the neighboring country of North Macedonia. And so we were able to get into North Macedonia, get to some of these refugee camps, and not only help with the humanitarian needs, but the most important thing was to get the gospel into the hands of these people.
Sure.
And so we were able to do that through these micro SD cards. One thing that I've always found among refugees is that they're all carrying cell phones, okay? So we jumped on that opportunity to be able to use these micro SD cards that had Plan of Salvation. It had it was in multiple different languages languages for the refugees. Had the Jesus film on there, and we were able to use that to be able to propagate the gospel to these refugees. And so it was exciting to see. We have seen people saved in
Amen.
these camps, and so it went from the Syrian, Iraqi refugees, it went from that to the Afghan refugees.
Okay.
And just a few years ago, when this situation happened in Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands of people left Afghanistan. And of course, the UN took control of a lot of that, moving refugees all around in different Muslim countries because they're Muslim. And Albania was one of the receiving countries. And I believe that our country received about 2,500 refugees, and so our ministry was assigned several hundred of those refugees.
Okay.
And we had an opportunity to be able to teach English as a second language, being able to get the gospel in through that, and build relationships with many of these refugees. Our workers did a really great job. And so some of those were able to receive Christ, and of course since then all those refugees have moved on to areas in Northern Europe, in America, North America, and so we don't have any of those refugees now. But we had a 1 year open door to be able to work with these refugees, and it was a real blessing. And so thankful for what God did. And then of course, we also know that the situation in Ukraine. Okay?
Sure.
Now I have a good friend there in Budapest. He was a missionary for 16 years. His name Missionary Jim Pranger. He won't mind me mentioning his name. And he was 16 years in the country of Russia, Siberia, Russia. Is fluent in the language of Russian.
Yeah.
knows some Ukrainian. There's a little bit of a difference, but all Ukrainians speak Russian. So I thought, who could I partner with? Who could I help in that area? And Jim Pranger came to mind. And so I began bringing some teams of people with me, small teams. Typically what we do is we fly into Budapest, meet up with Brother Jim, and then we assemble our team, and then we drive into the border city of Bergeva, which is on the border of Hungary and Ukraine. And that has been a kind of a staging location for hundreds of thousands of refugees. A little town of 25,000 went to 250,000 in a very short time. So there was a big congregation of refugees in the beginning. Now, not so many now, although our work is ongoing. But honestly, it was overwhelming in the beginning. And so we began yes, we helped with humanitarian needs. We helped with the food. I believe that Jesus was a humanitarian, of course. He healed people. He healed the sick. But the primary goal always, the primary objective always is to get the gospel into the hands of these people.
Yeah.
So we've been able to use New Testaments. Hundreds of thousands of those New Testaments have been either given out personally by teams or have been shipped to pastors in and around throughout Ukraine to be able to pass out to their refugees in their areas. Has a QR code in the back, so we've gone from the micro SD card now to the QR code.
So it's all cloud-based.
Yes,
okay.
And they can go to that QR code and receive all of that information about how they can receive Christ, and it's really a great program, and we've seen people saved there. We've got a man on there. I'm not going to mention his name, but a man there in Bergeva, which has done some discipleship work among new believers. We also have a connection to the Ukrainian military. That's all I'm going to say. I can't say anything more about that other than the fact that we've helped some of these soldiers with very simple things that they couldn't get that needed, and not anything militarily, weapons or anything like that. Yeah. We're not into any of that, but some personal hygiene packets, simple things like underwear and socks, that they needed. And so we were able to do that, but at the same time, again, getting the gospel to these soldiers. And so it's been a blessing to hear that some of the soldiers, including a base commander, is being able to is being worked with as far as discipleship and Bible reading and all those things. So I'm really excited about that.
Wow. I mean, so the takeaway that I'm getting from this, and this is applicable not just in missions, but it's the idea of continual surrender, where people get in their mind that, yes, Brother Drust, he surrendered to go to Albania, but that was only the first surrender.
Right.
Right. And if we all have this tendency to get comfortable and to get into our place, I guess, and this is my position, this is my title, this is what I do. And you see a need and you're like, yeah, someone needs to surrender to that, without ever thinking that maybe I'm the one that surrender. And I mean, no one would ever fault you, Brother Drust, if you had started that church in Albania and you had continued working with that church, and that's where all your focus was. But obviously this is not what God had for you. Can you talk a little bit about, what was that process internally for you? What were those thoughts? Man, was there ever a moment where you're like, God, is this what you want me to do? And and then thinking about, okay, what am I going to have to sacrifice in this one ministry to do this? Obviously, you're pulling yourself in other directions.
Right. It has been challenging in the fact that I still consider myself a missionary to Albania. I still want to reach Albanians, but we have a good nucleus of churches there now that are now doing that, and not only reaching Albanians, but expanding by church plants out of the church ministries there, and so growing churches all around Albania. So I mean, is Albania completely evangelized or reached with the gospel? No, they are not. But there's still a lot of work to be there. I would encourage any American that feels like God is calling them to go to a country like Albania, if God leads you, to please come. We need more church planters. The Americans that are there, the Baptist missionaries that are there, are doing a great job. But there's still more work to be done. My desire was to expand beyond the borders of Albania, take what we have done and really expand upon that. And of course, let me just say, I couldn't do it without partnerships and without help. But so yes, it was overwhelming, but God had placed this burden on my heart in how to go beyond the borders of Albania, and that's how Regions Beyond Albania began back in those days. And so that's how we came up with, how I came up with the title, and that's essentially what it is. It lives up to its title.
Yeah.
We're going beyond the borders of Albania, and I really think that all missionaries ought to think that way in terms of working with nationals. How can they better propagate the gospel? How can they better reproduce themselves? And for the most part, I think missionaries do that. I never viewed myself as pastoring full-time forever a church in Albania. I'll be honest with you, that's not my job.
Yeah.
My job is to train a national and put them in place and move on to the next thing. That's what the Apostle Paul did.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not going to get into specifics on that, but I would just say that, everyone is different, every missionary is different, but I knew that was not for me. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, can you give a little bit of your background? I mean, obviously, this is a lot of administrative working with people. This is not just, personal evangelism, building church. You're putting a lot of other things together. Can you talk a little bit about your background?
Sure. Well, my background began, my business background began in Cleveland, Ohio. My first degree in school was, or in college was, in business administration and economics, so minor in economics. And when my wife and I moved to Cleveland, my wife's from Cleveland, grew up there at Cleveland Baptist Church. Dr. Roy Thompson was the pastor in those days. A great missions church. I mean, putting out missionaries, and we had the privilege for a number of years to be sent out of that church. And I'll always be grateful for Cleveland Baptist for their investment in my life. And I know I wouldn't be here where I am today without that. But they also invested in me in a way that I needed at the time when I decided to go into full-time ministry. I needed that Christian education, and we have Heritage Baptist Institute there, the local college out of our church, out of the church there. And I was able to, I worked all day at the bank. I was a banker. Worked all day at the bank and went to school at night. When I had the spare time, I was remodeling a house we were living in, raising a family. My wife was working. So it was a lot to juggle back then. I was a lot younger, too. I could handle it. But it was a lot to juggle during that time. But, we just stayed faithful, and the Lord got me through school. And then we began deputation in 2000 and began raising our support. 1999, began raising our support. And by 2001, we were on the field. So, and so that's my background. And yes, my background in business and also in banking really helped me not only with administrative things, what I'm doing now than what I did when we first got to the field, but it has also helped me in raising support because money is what it was all about when I was in banking.
Sure, yeah.
And let's face it, we can't do what we need to do in ministry without money. It takes money to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you have to find innovative ways to raise money and for projects and raise your monthly support and all those things. So that did help me and was truly was a blessing to me that I had that experience.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and
yes, sir.
I appreciate your zeal for the Lord and just going all different directions all at the same time. It was really what impressed me about your ministry and just how flexible you are to do all that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You're very kind.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Well, make sure you check out our other episodes on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you like this video, you comment, and that you share it with somebody who may be benefited by it as well. Make sure you also check out the audio-only platforms as well. God bless you. Have a good day.